Hi folks, welcome to this edition of Find Out Friday. There's been a lot of talk lately in the political arena in relation to negative gearing. I just thought I'd try and attempt to, I suppose, some simplicity around that, look at what the possible outcomes are, and try and not get political about it, because the reality is this is a policy that is on both sides of the fence. It's just a different type of policy. So first of all, let's look at what the impacts could be. And the questions that are being asked of me at the moment is, first one, will we see prices drop? Because that's a campaign that's going out there at the moment. The reality is that if I look at this from a Northern Beaches perspective, probably unlikely to see that happen in the medium term. However, in the long term, we could see some significant impacts that could see impacts happen on property values. Another question that's been asked at the moment, what will happen to rents? Well, the number one thing that we can tell you unequivocally is that rents will rise as a result of this policy. The reason for that is the fact that if you're taking away incentives for investors to invest in property, there's going to be less investors investing in property. Now, the reality on the Northern Beaches is that we don't have the new stock to attract the amount of investors into that space because there's so many first home buyers and retirees and upsizers and downsizers wanting to buy the new stock. So we won't have a big flow of new properties into our rental marketplace. 98 to 99% of that is established homes, and established homes will be excluded from those negative gearing provisions. So every time a property gets sold, that's an investment to say a first home buyer, it's taken out of the rental marketplace. We will see a shortage of properties happen fairly quickly within that first 12 months that comes into play. Now that has a simple impact. It actually pushes rents up. Less supply, higher demand, higher rents. So that to me is probably the fundamental thing that will change quite dramatically. Other question people are asking is what's going to happen in that time leading up to the date, which I think this point is 1st of July 2020. We will see a rush of people buying investment properties. Now that's not what we want to see. We actually want to see a more balanced approach to the marketplace. That will knock out first home buyers again, and it'll all be back to the way it was. So the reality is, if you're playing in these marketplaces, make sure that you understand what you're doing. And I just don't think the Labor opposition has actually thought this policy out to the extent that it needs to. So we're going to have some big issues coming out of that. And so from a first home buyer's perspective, the idea is to make things affordable, more cheaper. I just don't see that happening. The problem on the Northern Beaches particularly is it's a high demand, low supply marketplace. And if we start playing around with those dynamics and exclude some people from a tax deduction and not include others, we're going to start to find a really interesting change that occurs through the way people invest in property. What we don't want is seeing more investors exit the rental marketplace. Australia requires private investors to supply 80 to 90% of the rental property in the marketplace. If we start playing with that and the government won't make up the difference, we're going to find ourselves in deep trouble. And the people who suffer the most are people renting. And the reality is you rent before you can buy. The increased number of people renting is sitting about 32% at the moment. That's what we're playing with. We're playing with those people's livelihoods. So I would really suggest that everyone thinks clearly about what direction we should go in. So thanks for listening to our Friday session, and I look forward to next week as well. Thank you.